financing your next billion gain insights into successful engagements with venture capitalists and investors. Get ahead of industry trends, hear from industry leaders, influencers, founders, policymakers, and governments. Stay in the know on how to finance your next billion.
Okay, and we are here. We're back here again, day 5 at the Davos Summit, and we are grateful to be streaming in from the United States into Davos, Switzerland. And good evening to all of you who have joined us in the Davos room, in the U.S. room. I'm told that's the one that we're actually broadcasting into. Well, that's good, because the United States has brought quite a contingency and a delegation there. So I am happy that all of you are there and able to see this as we bring it to you. This is a very critical topic that we're going to be talking about and exploring today on FYNB, Financing Your Next Billion Talks. And as you know, we talk with people across all spectrums, and we try to capture, all that's going on, because everything is somehow tied to finance and commerce, money and that sort of thing. But today we started out at the top of the week, FYNB Talks did, talking about safeguarding the planet, changing the climate before the climate changes us. Well, my guest, Dr. Greg Spencer, is very interesting. I was actually at a forum with him last week and heard him speak about, he's actually on the front line of the wildfires that are going on in the state of California here in the United States. And one of the things he said that kind of really struck me, right to the heart, and that was the fact that this change that's happening now, it's going to take that to heal the human condition is going to take a lot more than they've ever had to actually put out. Generally, when something happens, you file your insurance claims, you get your money, you rebuild, you go on. He said, this is different. And it was something about the way he said that one word, different, that many of you who've listened to me down through the years, you've heard me in the different talks that I've given around the world. You hear me talk about the fact that people don't change until they're standing on a precipice, staring down into an abyss. And that's the moment where they realize that what is behind them is gone, and all there is what's in front of them. What I'm going to do is just give you a slight introduction to Dr. Greg Spencer, and I'm going to let him, because as you know, I'm not a person. I don't steal your thunder. I think you should thunder it out to the world. But I will tell you this, that I do know personally. Dr. Greg is a get-it-done leader, education futurist, business and leadership advisor, a best-selling author, community engagement strategist. As a former gang leader for the Black Panthers from Oakland, California, back in the day, not today, Dr. Spencer is dedicated to helping children, families, and communities that are in risk. One of the things I can say of Dr. Spencer, and I want you to listen very carefully to his verbiage. He is a man who uses his words deliberately, and he does not use them figuratively. So I want you to listen very carefully as he shares with us his perspectives on the different things we're going to talk about. So Dr. Spencer, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can tell us and share with the audience, about 1 minute overview, just of who you are and why are you here on this planet.
Well, thank you, Right Honorable Yvonne Gamble. I just want to thank you, first of all, for your leadership and your intentionality. I'm all about intentional leadership. We have no time in the world for just leadership. You have to be very intentional. And I want to thank the World Economic Forum for the meetings and conversations you've been having in this past week. And let me just start off with this. The future of work is not just about automation, but collaboration between humans and machines. That's a quote from the founder of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. And I start with that because sadly, a lot of things that the world is seeing now, whether it's regionally or globally, are really all about how do we effectively merge technology in the appropriate ethical way, I like to call it, and we honor who we are as humans. We honor who we are as those that are seeking to impact our families and our communities. As Ms. Gamble said, my background is unlike a lot of people, frankly, that I engage with. I grew up in an environment that was not healthy psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. I grew up in an environment that knows the 6 kids, but sadly, I had a father that was wayward and did not have the leadership, intentional leadership in our home that he should have had. And so that led me to engage in aberrant behavior. At the age of 9, became a gang leader as we shared, and then at the age of 12, joined the Black Panthers. Why? Because I was searching to belong to an environment, to a family that was about moving forward. And then I had good people like Yvonne and many of you that are at the forum who really saw something in me I couldn't see in myself, and that's a hope for a bright future. So I was fortunate to be able to move on, eventually go to college, became a teacher in Los Angeles Unified School District, went on to become a principal, elected city commissioner, school board president, and then finished my career in education as a superintendent. And one of the things that I learned along that journey is that I was able to turn my record into my resume. And all of the work that the World Economic Forum are doing and others is all about how can we use our life experiences to impact the world in a very positive and sustainable way. And that's the key. We have to be sustainable in the work we do.
Thank you so much for that. And, you know, kind of like piggybacking on what you're saying, how is it that the private and the public sector can actually invest in human capital? Because I think that's what we're talking about here in the development, because we seem to be coming to we come to these forums, we come to the different devastations, and we're addressing them from behind the 8 ball, if you will, where here's the problem. Now we're going to rush and everybody throws money on the table, hoping that will fix it. They throw people at the table. How can we get the people prepared beforehand? Most certainly, we have enough data and information and, you know, things that have happened down through the years. So we pretty much know what's coming or what's going to happen or the probability of something happening. Why are we not investing in the public and private sectors to actually in our human capital?
You make a great point. My doctorate is in trauma counseling. And one of the things I see, not only as an educator, but a person that's experienced early childhood trauma, is that, once again, I get back to that word intentionality. I know we talk about the 4th Industrial Revolution, and that includes looking at how do we incorporate the bleeding edge element of artificial intelligence now. Many of you know about President Trump's announcement with AI looking to make America the AI capital of the world. But when we look at whether that's technology or we're looking at how then do we rally the troops, meaning literally, I tell people all the time that if you want to destroy a nation, you must first destroy the family. So that's really where it begins and ends, in my opinion. I think that the revolution that we're really after is how do we create a healthy, engaging, loving, supportive, sustainable family unit. And that's your inner sanctum of your family, but also those in the next circles. And when we do that, we're able to see that we have the opportunity to really engage in a very significant way. So let me be specific. I think there are a few things we need to look at. Number one, we need to have truly public-private partnership to the point that you made a moment ago. We need to see how we can foster collaboration, create jobs. And I'm not talking about jobs for now, but the jobs for tomorrow and the tomorrows. Those are the engagements we need to have, but that starts as early as possible. One of the things I'm involved in is early childhood education. I spoke to a large audience last night, and one of the things I said to them is that the most important time in a person's education career is not getting a doctorate or a master's or a bachelor's or a high school degree. It's early childhood education. And because of that, because that's when the foundation is laid. So if we are really focused on truly educating our children and our planet, we have to start as early as possible. If someone wants to be a world-class golfer, they don't start golfing when they're 50. They start when they're 5. The earlier, the better, because you develop that skill set, the love of the game. You develop the love of learning, the love of family, the love of community. Then the second piece is, how do we create social safety nets, for example, and strengthening how we employ people, and looking, as I said, toward the future, because the future is now. It's already here. It's not waiting to come here. It's here already. And then how do we sustain infrastructure and projects and whether it's building structures physically, but most importantly, mentally and emotionally in the lives of our children. And for me, I start with the family, and the ivory towers will always be there. But what will the next generation look like that fill those ivory towers? And those ivory towers are no longer going to be 30, 40, 50-story buildings. Those days are coming really to an end, because we have to be virtual. We have to augment how we learn, because every environment is a learning environment. And then when we do that, how do we incentivize folks not only to go to work, whether that's on your tablet or your phone or in a building, but how do we incentivize them to partner and truly partner so that we can have sustainable impact, engage with our community in a very significant way. One of the organizations I work with is Footsteps to Brilliance, for example, and globally, we help support literacy, reading, writing, and math at the earliest of levels, with the least of these. Because when we're able to engage our children as early as possible, we then have the opportunity to put them on a pathway of lifelong success.
I'd like what you're saying about the children, and I'm gonna throw you a curveball here.
Mm-hmm.
With the children at the young age, they definitely, are very quick learners because they're absorbing type learners. So they're absorbing what they learn from their environment, from the information that you're giving them. And you can definitely, you're absolutely correct. You can actually mold them and shape them into what you want them to do and what you want them to be. With the advent of AI that we're talking, and we want to become an AI nation, what can we do so that the children don't become the AI?
Excellent point. One of the concerns I do have is the laziness that technology can bring to the humankind, and I'm all about how can we save time and really invest our energy in proficiency and efficiency. I'm all about how do we infect and affect community, and how we and I look at those as positive words. Because last night, for example, when I spoke, we had about 350 people in the room, and then there was a time when I spoke, and I said, I want to talk to the men in the room now. Ladies, you can listen in if you want. And I challenged the men, because I said, men, we have abdicated our roles as leaders of our home, and I mean in a positive, encouraging, nurturing, disciplined, honoring way. We've allowed the system to raise our boys and our girls. We've allowed education. Oh, you're going to school now, so you're going to get your education. And I got to tell you, all educators do not believe in all of our children. If they don't look like them, or they don't have similar life experiences, if they are not the sit and get type of learner, which no one is, because there are 8 different ways that we learn: auditory, visual, kinesthetic, tactile, and so forth. One of the reasons that I had issues in school is because, quite frankly, I was a different type of learner, but the system did not accommodate that. So artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, engaging with people, using technology in the appropriate ethical way is going to be something that frankly needs to be embraced. When we went from the horse and buggy days to then cars and trains and planes and so forth, there was pushback on that. when we brought technology to the classroom, internet, oh man, I thought people were going to riot when we brought internet to the classroom. And when we brought tablets to the classroom, it was an unbelievable pushback. And now they're ubiquitous. We will find ourselves engaging with AI and other modalities in a very, once again, intentional way, but it has to be done, as I said, ethically. And once again, that starts in the home. But if we as family members and leaders of our community are not embracing the appropriate way to engage and educate and support our children, then yes, they will be victims, not to AI, but our lack of intentionality. When we look at COVID, for example, when COVID came out, I wrote a 5-part series a month after it hit the world as to what's going to happen in the world in education and community. One of the worst things that happened with COVID was not the disease itself, which was horrific. I lost 8 family members, so it was horrific to the world. It was our response to COVID, separating and segregating our families. We are social beings. We're not meant to be separated. When our children could not go to school, we have what I call the COVID generation, COVID kids. These are kids that were around during COVID in the beginning, but now they're older and they still don't have those foundational educational skills to be able to communicate and learn in a certain way. And because of these things, we have seen a dichotomy of not only education, but our children's ability to function emotionally and effectively in the workplace and as they move on. And the last point I'll make is this, is that when we do this, we have to engage and enhance the public-private partnership, as I said a moment ago, because it's all about how do we engage our children in a sustainable way, but also leaving them room to be critical thinkers. So I'm not looking for AI to do anything more than be a support, no different than any other technology or resource. But we have to be very careful because we, frankly, as a human race, are lazy. We do not want to get up and run and talk and eat healthy and exercise the brain in an effective way. We want someone else to do it for us or another technology to do it for us. That is my concern about not AI, but our response to AI or any technology that's on the forefront.
By 2050, our planet will be a vastly different place. By 2050, artificial intelligence will be everywhere. AI-driven stores will allow you to purchase goods without cashiers or waiting lines. AI will diagnose and treat patients, manage transportation, and analyze massive quantities of data. AI chatbots and voice recognition systems will sound like and behave just like real people. AI will be implemented into robots. By 2050, robot dogs and other pets will serve as companions. Robots will dominate factories and begin to serve as teachers, cooks, pharmacists, law enforcement officers, athletes, and other professionals. In 2050, universal translators will remove all language barriers and voice recognition will be ubiquitous. Hundreds of sensors will be installed in our clothes, homes, and overall environment to monitor our well-being and improve our lives. Computing will change. By 2050, we may run on quantum computers. Based on the properties of quantum physics, quantum computers could deliver massive leaps in computing power, outstripping any current transistor-based models. AI and computers will integrate into humans. Brain chips like Elon Musk's Neuralink will treat neurological disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, spinal cord injury, and blindness. These brain chips will allow people to control computers and prosthetics with no physical interaction. By 2050, we may be controlling things with our minds and communicating through brain signals. By 2050, robotic prosthetics may be stronger and more advanced than our own biological ones. Prosthetic eyes and ears will enter the market, curing blindness and deafness. And in 30 years, like AI, virtual reality will be everywhere. People will try on clothes in virtual reality closets, and holograms will bring FaceTime to a new level. VR platforms will allow you to move around while staying still. We will be able to travel the world and experience life on other planets, all from home.
I like that you said that before I said it. So Dr. Gregg said it first, and that is that that how we as humans will simply acquiesce our what we have to do and put that on to something else to do it. We love the do it done for us times. That's the era that we're in now, and that's why my concern is that literally what'll happen. I understand, yes, that we want to bring this back to the families and having them to actually to be the ones who are the purveyors of this. But this is what we now, let's look, if that's the case, then let's look then at the dynamics of the family. Within the family, you have the mother and the father, and they're all both out working, or they're working from home remotely, or I would say they're pretty much parenting. The tablet is, let's just be real, the tablet and the phone is parenting the children.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
enters in AI. Now you've got the AI units, the AI bots, in the home, the AI bots on television, on, coming in through your tablet, your phone. Now that's also helping to augment that. And when we began to say we want to be a nation, that is AI driven and we want to be number one, everybody's like, oh, yay, because now I don't have to really attend to the children. Okay.
Or you don't have to think.
I don't have to think. It's going to do it for me. And so therefore, all I have to do is press a button and there it is. That's my concern. I don't have pushback. I'm a technologist, I'm a futurist, and just as you are, and I understand that yes, we do need these types of things. And one of the reasons I think we want to just clarify for the audience, one of the main state reasons of why we are bringing in, I think it's very appropriate at this moment to bring that to the forefront, why we are bringing AI in to be a proponent. And that is because we are looking very aggressively into off-world colonizations. That's building colonizations on the moon, colonization on Mars, and then obviously going out further into deep space. In order to do this, we will need the technology of AI to assist us with that, because we cannot go as humans into those harsh environments. So we will be able to go there once a habitat is built for you, once all those components are set in place, then yes, we will be able to go. So we must actually seed a generation, and that's why Dr. Greg is speaking, on this. We have to seed this next generation so that we prepare them. We know that we can't sit back even here on Earth, on this planet, and we definitely already know we have some information. We don't know everything about every other planet or moon, that is out there. But what we do know is that we will have to actually be prepared for those, and we will need some assistance with that. But my concern is that the urgency of the impacts is the need to reskill and to upskill. How can we, as an educator, yourself, Dr. Gray, how can we do that? Yes, I believe in it, that what we can do with the children, and that would probably be the easiest thing that we can actually do with the children. But now you have all of these adults and older adults. We're living far longer. The average age probably back 50, 60 years ago was you might make it to 70 or 80. Now we're trying to, the insurance industry is rewriting the code, because why? People are living into their 90s and 100, and it's almost becoming everybody that number is swelling to the point where they're trying to push the age of retirement. We're gonna hit, in probably the next 10 years, the age of retirement will be 80 years old. So how then do we, so that means people are going to need to have skilling and upskilling, and the world is changing. It's not just going to change it used to be where parents could retire, sit back, and see their children and their children's children go off into this nice new world. But now the parents, the children, the grandparents, the great-grandparents are all going into this new world together. How do we train and upskill people in an environment like that?
Well, you make an excellent point, and I know that the World Economic Forum has talked about, the fact that reskilling is no longer optional. It's a necessity for a thriving economy. And to your point, what we need to do is make sure that we're very intentional about doing that. And that's, once again, starts in the home, as long as you have the right mindset. So I like to offer a few
Please.
on this. We have to have not learning objectives for the time we're in elementary, middle, high school, or even college. We have to have lifelong learning objectives and initiatives. We have to be able to promote continuous learning. And the saddest thing is that I remember when I graduated high school, couldn't wait to get out of there. Graduated high school, I stayed on the steps of the school because I wanted to hear the last bell I would ever have to respond to. And I said, I'm free. And at that point, my learning started to wane because I had no opportunity to be challenged. And I never liked reading books. Now I read 3 to 4 books a week. I devour information. I devour education. Why? Because I need to be prepared to do battle on behalf of those I serve. And because of that, one of the things that we don't do well in this nation, I'll talk about the US, and I've worked with other countries as you have, but what we don't do is we don't commit ourselves to lifelong learning. And so if you ask someone, what 1 or 2 books have you read recently, they go, I have no idea, because we are not committed to that personally. And then as a family, I challenged the folks that I met with yesterday, turn that TV off, turn the devices off, and sit and have conversation with your kids. Get their feedback on things so that they understand that you have an open communication and engagement with them. But lifelong learning initiatives are important, not only within the family, but within schools, businesses, and so forth. So I think as we create those learning pods, whether they be virtual or otherwise, are going to be important. The second point I'd like to make is that we need to truly focus on, and I know this is changing with AI and other forms of education, but we need to look at how do we focus on STEM and digital skills, but also communication skills. Sadly, too many of our young people can't put a sentence together. They can't communicate with you. They can't look at you if they don't have a device in their hands. So we have got to understand that human connection is got to be core to who we are as a race, a human race. And when we do that, we're able to then engage people. You talked about, going beyond the stars. Well, that's going to not only take intelligence artificially, but it's going to take this intelligence. This is the greatest intelligence there is, period. Because we created all these elements, but we have to make sure that Skynet does not take over. That will only happen if we choose not to be lazy in our endeavors. So when we have the skills, we're going to be able to encourage skill building, whether that's robotics, AI, blockchain, cybersecurity, anything to stay competitive, but to also stay engaged. The other point I'd like to make is when we do that, we have to collaborate with sectors. When we think about silos, they stand alone. But suppose they were connected by bridges, and you can still be expert in the area, because when I go have surgery, I want the expert cutting me open and diagnosing what I need to have fixed. I want to then be able to, okay, now I need therapy, now I need recovery. I want all of those elements to collaborate with each other so that my loved ones, my family, my community can have the best that they can have access to. So we have to align industries and educational institutions so that it truly is a continuum across the board. So we can look at how do we, for example, co-design a curriculum. You have, even within a schoolhouse, you might have one 4th grade teacher teaching something in a different way than another 4th grade teacher. And that nuance is great, but then how do they connect so that child is prepared for the 5th grade and beyond? The other key point, and we've touched on this already, is soft skills development. How do we look at, as I've said before, creativity, adaptability, flexibility? How do you help facilitate conversation? And what is your emotional intelligence going to look like? When we do that, then we're able to engage, because the data is very clear with the 96% accuracy. Yvonne, you and I and others, we're the exact same person today behaviorally as we were when we were 3 to 4 years of age. Now, our skill, our intellect, and our personalities have grown, but our behavior is pretty much there. how do we complement and make and help people understand how they're wired to be able to deal with the ever-changing world, because the world is changing quicker than quick. And then lastly, how do we have equitable and equality access to information? How do we ensure that marginalized communities, and I know that you spoke with Mr. Frank Crump with UPI Loan Fund, and he talked about that in your conversation with him yesterday, and talking about how do we impact marginalized communities, working with women and men in rural areas and children from all different types of background, and how do we bring inclusiveness in so everyone feel that they have the opportunity to eat at the table. And then when we do that and we're able to make that a part of our DNA, we're able to engage with community in a very effective, sustainable way.
So what you've just outlined here, I could just see it. I could see it all connecting, all out there. What you just outlined is quantum physics.
Mm-hmm.
That is, people, I'm here to tell you what Dr. Greg Spencer has just given you is that quantum physics 101. And that is how we are all connected and where we're all connected. He told you from the time you were 3 years old until now. Now maybe you can understand yourself a little bit better and why you do some of the things you do. And why were you doing those things when you were younger and you're doing them now? And that this world, this life is simply a build on what you have. What I would like to kind of intimate here on that, on what you're saying, on that, bringing that together, and that is we have, and also, as you mentioned, when we talked to Mr. Crump yesterday, and he was very, eloquent in, sharing with us about, those disconnects or what have you. But I will have to say this, as far as I want to say on two things, as far as access to information, everyone has access to the same information.
Absolutely.
As far as a day and what you can do with the day, everyone has 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what you do with that 24 hours that's different, that your outcome is different from another person's outcome. What did they do with their 24 hours?
Mm-hmm.
As far as being at the table, well, if you don't have, and perhaps because my father was a mason and a builder, and if you don't have a table, or if you're not being invited, build your table and invite some people to your table, just as I've invited all of you to come to this table. You
Right.
invite us to come to your table. Build your own table and create that. One of the things that I think, like you're saying, what we do is we have to get in front of this education. We
Yes.
have to get in front of this information. We have to get in front of our communications, and we have to stop letting it lead us. I think that is the problem, because I see little kids, I see babies. My 10-month-old granddaughter is snatching for the phone, and then she's doing this, and I'm like, okay. And just the other day, she called me on the phone, and she had her little conversation. I'm like, what? I see it's her mom's number. I'm like, and she's just going away. She's just babbling away. Wouldn't be stopped. And so, somehow her mom was asleep, and the phone was there, and that was the last number to dial. And she pushed the button, and she's talking on the phone, or,
Right.
in her language or what have you. But the fact of the matter is the access is there. I can take that phone or that tablet just as another child can take that phone, that tablet, and they have that access. I can remember we had an instructor. This is, about going back to high school, and he was so frustrated. We were in here doing calculus, and so he was so frustrated that we just were not getting it as a whole. Some of us were getting it, some of us wasn't. That middle section of the class, I was one of those A++, so, he basically told us we could go take a break or sit in the classroom with what he had to say. And what he said was, now, and whatever the latest song was at the time, I don't remember, but he started, humming the tune, and everybody just joined in and started singing the song. And he said, "That's it, stop." He said, "Now, you know that. I just hummed the tune. You know the songs. You know all the words. I could ask you to sit here and write me the words of the song, and you could write me those words to that song. But I'm telling you how to do this calculus, and you can't get this." And then he said this. He said, "It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same thing." But then what he did was, I said with my little smart self, I said, "Well, why don't you just teach it to us as a song?" I said, you writing all these words up here. If this is the same as a musical song, why don't you teach it to us as a song? He's like, wow. Everybody got straight A's. I mean, the kids who usually come, they get the worst grades in the world. They just know they're going to get an F, so they don't even try. They passed the class. Okay, because it was true what he said.
Yes.
That everything is a song, every mathematics, everything is a number. Yes. And when he began to teach us that the notes in the song, the notes on the piano, the notes are the same as those numbers you're doing in calculus. And that's communication. Yes. And that's why I said that Dr. Greg just gave us a quantum physics class, because that's how I was able to grasp quantum physics at the high school level and grasp it very, very easily and very quickly, because I realized what it was connected to. And I realized what it was, and I stopped looking at it as something different. But I would say that we definitely, like you said, we've got to teach not only our children, but we have to also this lifelong learning. And we have to get that down in the spirit of the parents, of the adults, of the families, of the educators, of the leadership, the entrepreneurs, the businesses, the everyday Joe, the everyday persons. We have to get that into their spirit, that you have to keep learning. You have to keep reading. You have to keep doing the mathematical problems. You have to solve the problem. I know a lot of people skipped it when a train leaves Chicago and one leaves New York. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to figure the problem out. You can't go to the back of the book and look up the answer. You're gonna have to figure out the problem.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Greg, this has been just the most fun and exciting. I'm going to give you the last word on our topic that we were talking about today, and that is investing in people.
Yes, and thank you for once again the invitation. A couple last things I'd like to share as we start to wrap up, and that is one of the things words I coined is educational trauma. And to the point you just made a moment ago, there were kids in that classroom that something just wasn't grasping, but because the option was made available for them to learn by adding music to it, and we know that music is the great accelerant to learning. And when we add music to things and we add a different modality of engagement of learning, it can really help. Some people, as I said before, are tactile learners. They need to touch and feel and engage with what they're learning. That is how they learn. And the senses of a person that may be blind or deaf have to be more honed in other areas of engagement. And then when you have the human connection, technology has to be that tool that helps to empower, but not replace who we are as humans and who we are as learners. And when we embrace that element in our lives, when I'm working with the folks in the fires in Los Angeles, the educational trauma that these kids are experiencing because they're displaced, because they feel abandoned, is going to be it's going to affect them for a long time, because the Los Angeles fires, in my opinion, is a generational trauma, because those people will not be able to rebuild. And people say, oh, well, the rich people, they can rebuild. The only 3% of the people in that area are deemed rich that can rebuild and pay cash. The other folks, for example, had generational access to that property. So yes, they were property rich, but not any longer. But on February 1st, you know what's due? The next note payment. they won't be able to make that payment. And because of the displacement, learning has been impacted from a traumatic standpoint. So when we understand that these are the things that our learners go through, whether you're young or old, and then the guilt that parents may feel, and then the displacement, and then we can talk about leadership or lack thereof in terms of the response to that trauma that hits all of us at some point, whether it's physical, financial, or things that may happen out in nature. But how then do we make an impact so that, to your point, it's sustainable across the board? And I would offer this. We have to create, and we have to model, and we have to provide multiple ways to engage in not only learning, but also investigation of learning. And we have to welcome different learning styles. We have to welcome the different ways people communicate. We have to welcome the opportunity to engage with people and have not only the hard conversation, but be willing to have a conversation at all. And whether you're left or right or centric, it doesn't matter. How can we as a community come together and provide a resource so that people feel safe with us, and we provide an ethical environment for people to know, okay, in this place, I'm going to be safe. In this place, my opinions may not be agreed with, but I can still voice my opinion without retribution, without all the things that are going to happen. And when we add technology into that, my thing is this, and I'll end with this, is that we've got to put the devices down until we need the devices to be a part of the conversation or part of that piece. About 6.5 hours a day on average is spent by children and young people on a device. And that's, but what it does do, it negates the ability for you to communicate and have that human to human contact. See, we've had AI for a long time, whether it's in our cars, and we didn't call it that, whether it's in our phones or whatever the case may be, but now it's just being categorized in a different way. But what we cannot allow is that the human interaction goes by the wayside. That has to always be at the forefront of everything we do. And I know the World Economic Forum and you and others that are listening, and we're all in that together to make sure that the human development is the critical piece that leads everything. AI doesn't control us, we control it, and we control all the things that are going to come. Because guess what? There's something that's going to supersede AI one day. Just like the horse and buggy was superseded by cars and trains and planes. So, but we have to be intentional about what we do and how we live our lives. And once again, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on FYNB Talks. And if you're listening now, you have just you've joined into the Financing Your Next Billion. And that comes to us in many different ways, even beyond the dollars and cents. It comes to us with knowledge and with explanation, because we have to know what it is we're trying to do before we can finance anything. So thank you so much. And thank you to those this evening here in Davos. Thank you to those across the United States who have joined. And thank you to those around the world. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Financing your next $1 billion? Contact us to be a guest. Join us for the next show.